I forgot my music. Heh. There we go. Good evening. Hello, 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 hugs. Hello. I can't remember what your name was before. Can you smell it? God damn it. Morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hello. Also, hugs. Good luck. Your algorithm is ruined forever, and you're going to get VTubers recommended for you in your music channel. Yeah. But yeah, hello, hello. We are back with more reading. Yeah, you're gonna be salt in the wound. I'm sorry. You know that you're lucky that the algorithms didn't overlap already. Now it is simply too late. But yeah, how is everyone's night going? I know it's only been a couple of hours. I hope everyone, if you've had Thanksgiving, I hope you have now eaten and are sated, and that will last you the winter now. I don't know. What's the whole thing about like I feel like a lot of the time in Europe, whenever there's like, oh, we need to celebrate something where we eat a lot, I feel like it's always because, oh yeah, so afterwards we don't starve. But I feel like Thanksgiving is actually one of the holidays that's like, yeah, we just eat because, yeah, eating's pretty nice. So what the hell? Why do you guys get that right? It's rude. You should be worried about starving to death. God damn it. No, maybe not. Maybe not worrying about starving is a good thing. We celebrate second breakfast. I want well, actually no. I'm never awake for second breakfast. I'm not even there for first breakfast, never mind for second breakfast. Oh yeah, ASMR, you're gonna hear me open up my meds packet because I forgot to take them. But yeah, regardless of whether you've been celebrating or not, I do hope that you've been well, that you've been taking care. You did hopefully get something to eat, you know, in the break, if you didn't eat during my stream. Okay. We will be continuing the story that we started last week, because it turns out that this short story is a little bit longer than the other short story that we did. So we shall continue. I'm eating right now, and you're not sharing? How could you? No, enjoy your food. I hope it's good. But yeah, so if you missed the first chapter of the story of Tomoda and Matsunaga, it's the last VOD. It's the VOD before this one. So please do feel free, if you are watching this as a VOD, please feel free to pause this and go back and listen to that one. You can technically do that too if you're listening live, but that would be just putting me on pause while I'm live. I don't know. That feels rude somehow. You wouldn't like it? It's got veggies? Oh, okay, fair enough. As long as you're enjoying it then. That's the important part. Why'd that post up? Sometimes YouTube does that. It's one of those little glitch things. It just happens. Is there anything else to say? So, I'm not sure if we're actually going to finish this story this week either. But hopefully, whether we finish it this week or the week after, hopefully I can get a hold of the rest of my books within the next couple weeks, so we can actually do the poll and start reading the long form fiction, which would be nice. It'd be nice to actually have the normal breaks that we get with reading, as the chapters are a little bit longer in these. But yeah, so if you are not used to my reading streams, if you are new here, please do feel free to get some sleep, get some rest, or if you're busy working, just focus on that. I will not be responding to chat as I read the what the heck? Why is this so much louder? You've settled down. You've settled down, you background music. What the hell was that about? Honestly, that completely took me out of my state of mind. What was I saying? If you're working, yeah, work. Please do your best. I hope it's not too stressful. I hope you can get everything done. Let me know if I do need to adjust the volume for anything, for my mic or for Oh, I just realised I'm moving the wrong way, aren't I? You guys are, when I face this way, you're hearing me in like in this ear, and when I'm talking over here, you're hearing. Oh god, okay, hold on, let me fix that. Sorry, let me temporarily turn invisible. Don't worry about it. Are you telling me that someone doesn't, you don't find out that you've like put on your shirt inside out? You don't just turn invisible to fix it? I do. No, I don't. I don't put my clothes on the wrong way around. I'm sorry. Skill issue. There we go. Okay, I'm now visible, and I'm now looking or doing things the right way around, hopefully. So I should be, if I face this way, you should hear me over here, and if I face this way, You should hear me over here. Hopefully that's all correct now. Good now? Nice. Good. If not going out wouldn't care enough to turn the right way, I guess. I feel like it's hard to put my clothes on the wrong way around because I wear a lot of button-ups. If you wear button-up clothing, you will not get it the wrong way around because you will immediately find out the second that you try and button it up that it is not the correct way around. You'll try and be like, oh, okay, that didn't work. What else do I normally say? Oh yeah, I was saying I will not be responding to chat while I read. Once I've reached the end of the chapter or the end of the story, whichever one comes first, then I will catch up with everything that I missed. Yeah, there we go. I think that's all my normal stream reminder things. Let me just get the music back up because it pauses when I talk, when I read, and it is very concerning. Not concerning, that's not the right word. Alright, so if all the volumes and everything are all good, we will begin. Now let me know if I do need to adjust anything and I'll fix it. Alright. So, continuing with the story of Tomoda and Matsunaga. Chapter 2. The Café Placentin was a well-kept little place, a touch above ordinary cafes. The only food they did was steak, but what a steak it was, grilled the English way over hot coals, a real rarity in Tokyo. The wine list was impressive too. Many of the drinks behind the bar were available nowhere else. Naturally, a cafe of this kind relied on a group of discerning regulars rather than passing trade, and the Placentin was normally a somewhat exclusive place, a favourite haunt of connoisseurs. Tonight, though, the cafe was abuzz with people who had been drawn in to escape the hot summer evening. I arrived at 8 and sat for an hour over a steak and 3 glasses of French vermouth, waiting for Tomoda to appear. But there was no sign of him. At the tables around me, all I could see were strangers' faces. I decided to give him till 10. I finished my vermouth and ordered a glass of Amontillado. The name may be familiar from Poe's story, The Cask of Amontillado, but I suspect most people in Japan don't know what Amontillado really is. In fact, it was only recently that I had tasted this remarkable wine for the first time myself. It was Tomoda who had introduced me to it. "Try some of this," he said one night as the waiter brought over a bottle I had never seen before from one of the shelves by the bar. "Genuine Amontillado. Ever tried it?" "Never heard of it." "This," he said, as he poured me a good-sized sample, "is the real thing, from Spain. Look at the colour, it's a work of art." He gestured in the direction of the clear amber liquid in the glass in front of me. "Regular sherry is much darker than this, cloudier. Look how clear it is. That's the colour sherry is supposed to be. The stuff you've been drinking all your life is an English imitation. They add sugar to sweeten it. But there's no need for tricks like that with this stuff. This is the natural sweetness of the grapes. Nothing more, nothing less. It's wonderful. I've never tasted a sherry like it." I was captivated by the colour. The drink was perfectly balanced, the delicate sweetness of the fruit rounded out by the gentlest hint of bitterness. A warm southern breeze seemed to rise from the glass in my hand. "But where do they get it from? This stuff can't be easy to find." "You're not kidding. I take the credit for this. I found it in Yokohama at a place called the K Trading Company. They had 24 bottles of it stashed away in the warehouse. I gave 1 dozen to the bar and kept the rest for myself, for personal use only. He was starting to sound rather pleased with himself. I thought of Tomoda again now as I sipped my drink. My doubts about him were growing all the time. I was too close to have noticed it before, I suppose. But now I was forced to admit that this friend of mine, this man I had always assumed to be living such an uncomplicated life, was shrouded in mystery like no one else I knew. What had he been doing in the years before I knew him? How old was he? Where had he gone to school? I cross-examined myself and my friend's past. I couldn't answer a single one of my own questions. Tomoda had always been a bit slippery when it came to subjects like these, giving strangely evasive answers that could be taken either as yes or no. He spoke such good English and French, was so comfortable with Western manners, and was such a connoisseur of European food and drink that I had always assumed he had spent time in the West. But now I came to think of it, I realised I had never actually heard Tomoda say so himself. He had occasionally mentioned his adventures in Shanghai, but I had never heard him talk about Paris or London. "Where did you learn to speak English and French so well?" I had asked him once. "Just picked it up. When you spend as much money on foreign girls as I do, the language side of things pretty much takes care of itself," he said, as if fluency in 2 foreign languages was nothing worth making a fuss about. "You must have spent a lot of time in Europe, I suppose." He just laughed. "You don't have to go to Europe to find foreign women, you know. Who needs Paris when you've got Yokohama, or Kobe, or Shanghai?" This time I wasn't going to let him wriggle out of it so easily. If he's not here by 10, I thought, I'll go to Yokohama myself. I'll get to the bottom of this somehow. I ordered a 2nd glass of Amontillado. "On your own tonight, sir?" The waiter took a sherry glass full of the amber liquid from a silver tray and put it down in front of me. He had been working at the Pleasant Inn for as long as I could remember. "Afraid so. No takers at all tonight. You seem to be doing all right, though. This place is packed." "It's this summer weather. Brings in all kinds of people. More trouble than they're worth, some of them. I don't think I know a single person in here tonight. To tell the truth, I was hoping I might bump into Tomoda, but I've been waiting for nearly 2 hours now, and there's still no sign of him." "Maybe he's up at number 27, sir." The waiter grinned and turned to look at the clock over the bar. "It's only 9:30. Still a bit early for Mr. Tomoda." "I wonder, maybe he's not coming in tonight at all. In that case, I'll have to go on the attack and head out to Yokohama myself." "What is it, sir? Another interesting new arrival?" "That's exactly what I want to ask him myself. I don't know. I've been getting a bit tired of Tokyo recently." "Why not give him a bit longer? He hasn't been in for a couple days. I think we're about due for a visit." No longer had the boy spoken than the front door swung open. "The man himself!" I shouted as Tomoda came in. His magnificent bulk made its way across the room towards us, resplendent in a linen suit and an English-made straw hat. He was dressed in white from head to toe. The only thing that stood out was his red drinker's face. "Hey!" he shouted, raising a hand in our direction and clicking his fingers the way I'd seen foreigners do. He pushed his way through the crowd, his shirt flapping over his protruding belly, and eventually plopped himself down in the chair opposite mine. "Good evening, Mr. Tomoda. We were hoping you might drop in," the waiter said. "What do you mean? Who was?" "Well, I wouldn't say I've been sitting on the edge of my seat exactly. Just getting a bit bored here on my own, that's all," I said, as nonchalant as I could, trying to cover up the waiter's unfortunate remark. My gaze fell naturally on the back of Tomoda's hand as it rested on the table. The amethyst ring was there as usual, glinting at me from the plump ring finger of his left hand. "Bring me a pink gin, will you? That's a bit of a departure for you, isn't it?" Tomoda hardly ever touched gin or whiskey. Normally he drank wine, claret, champagne, hock, sherry and cognac. He had nothing but disdain for British and American drinks. "A cocktail is not what I call a drink," he liked to say. "A real drink should never be mixed. You want to taste the flavour of the drink itself, not some artificial concoction. The Americans know nothing about these things." "What, gin? No, I can't stand the stuff really. But there's nothing like gin and bitters when it's so absurdly hot. One glass is enough to cool you right down." "In that case, I think I'll have one myself." "But it has to be Old Tom. Dry gin's no good at all. Just a quick dash of bitters in a glass of Old Tom does the trick like nothing else." He took a handkerchief from his pocket as he spoke and used it to dab at the beads of perspiration on his face. Like most fat men, Tomoda sweated profusely. As always, he was wearing a stiff single collar, which was starting to wilt. "Goodness, it's hot. You can't function in this weather. Yokohama's a bit better than this, at least." "Speaking of Yokohama, what's the news from number 27? Any new arrivals?" "As a matter of fact, something rather special came in from Shanghai just a few days ago." "Russian?" "Portuguese, I think. But they're not so different from Japanese girls, surely. Watch what you're saying. They might have dark eyes and black hair like us, but that's where the similarity ends. Everything else about them is completely Western. A Portuguese girl combines the best of both worlds. She's got the face of a Japanese woman, a really attractive Japanese woman, I mean, and the body of a European. Trust me, they don't come much better than that." I wonder. You've been known to get a bit carried away about these things." It wouldn't be the first time Tomoda had been guilty of exaggeration. He was always singing the praises of whichever girl happened to be his favourite. "You've got to see this one," he would say. "She's fantastic." Often, she turned out to be nothing like as remarkable as he had led me to expect. "Nonsense. They've never had anything like this before." "Well, there's only one way to find out." "That can be arranged. Shall we head over there now?" Tomoda hesitated for a moment, looking about the room and putting his hand to the inside pocket of his jacket. "I have a photograph," he said. "What, already?" "You know me. I like to move quickly. I got her as soon as she arrived. Here, have a look." He took the photograph from his wallet and cupped it in his hands for me to see. "Now then, get a load of that body. She's still quite young, isn't she? 18, or so she says. Probably closer to 20. Like what you see?" "On this evidence, I like it very much. I should go and see for myself." Tomoda's chair swayed as he laughed. "Funny, I thought you might say that. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I have something to show you too." I decided to make my move while he was in a good mood. I reached into my jacket pocket just as he had done. "Something to show me? And what could that be?" "This." I took out the picture of the Matsunaga family and set it on the table in front of us. "What's this? Someone's pilgrimage snaps?" I have never forgotten the expression that crossed his face at that moment. The instant he saw the picture, he turned pale. He looked as though every hair on his body was standing on end. He didn't even pick up the photograph to get a closer look. His dull, drink-heavy eyes were suddenly wrenched wide open. I watched them flash as he fought to control his emotions. Waves of terror and anguish and loss washed over him. I didn't know what to say. At last, I heard a clink as Tomoda lunged for his glass and downed what was left of his gin in a single gulp. What's so special about it then? He finally said. His voice shook with an indignation he was struggling in vain to control. You don't recognise the people in the photograph? No. Should I? Not really my crowd, you know. Not ringing any bells at all? Absolutely not. Why? Perhaps I was going about it the wrong way. I began to worry that I had taken him too much by surprise. I would never get to the bottom of the mystery if I made him angry. I decided to change track and continued more gently. Well, if you don't know anything about it, that just makes things more mysterious. The man in the photograph is from a village called Yagyu in Yamato. His name is Matsunaga Gisuke. And what's so mysterious about that exactly? He went missing 2 or 3 years ago. And? Are you a friend of his or something? Tomoda growled. I've never met him. I thought you might know him. I remembered that Shigeko had asked me to keep the contents of her letter to myself, but I couldn't keep the truth from him now. Maybe I should suggest going for a stroll and talk things over with him outside, but the cafe was so crowded tonight. Next to our table, a fan rattled and whirred. There was little risk that anyone would overhear what I had to say, and it would be easier to follow his reactions in a well-lit place like this. Quietly, I continued my account. My lowered voice seemed to help Tomoda regain his composure a little, but as I spoke, he suddenly called the waiter over and asked him to bring him some absinthe. He raised the drink repeatedly to his lips, nodding and grunting from time to time as I spoke. I have mentioned already that it was rare for Tomoda to drink anything as strong as gin, let alone absinthe. He was evidently looking to escape into an even more intoxicated state than he was in already, but his mumbled interjections grew more frequent and more involved as I continued my story, and I occasionally caught glimpses of genuine curiosity in his eyes. What a story, he said when he had heard me out. You ought to write it up. There's the makings of a classic detective story. He was more his usual self again now, banging his fist on the table and roaring his appreciation. What do you mean? You do know him after all? No, I don't know the man, but I know the stuff in that bag of his. It was mine, all of it. The seal, the ring, the photographs, everything. So, how did the bag get in his hands then? I had my bag stolen once. Let me see, when would it have been? If I had that postcard on me, it must have been around then, I suppose. My bag was taken while I was staying at the XX Hotel in Hakone. Probably the bag she found was mine too. Shigeko said it was some kind of small carrying case. That's right, one of those little box-like things. I don't remember the postcard from you, but the rest of it was definitely there. Money, too. 200 or 300 yen. I lost it all. Did they ever catch the thief? I never reported it. I prefer not to deal with the police if I can help it. That wasn't that much money involved anyway. And those photos! How would it look if the police found those? What about the ring you're wearing now? This? No replacement. I had it made after the other one was stolen. He thought for a moment, then continued. Sounds funny, I suppose, having the ring stolen. The thing is, I hate thunder. It terrifies me. Whenever I hear thunder, I take off everything I'm wearing that's made of metal. Watches, rings, anything. I remember there was a terrific thunderstorm that night in Hakone. I took off my ring and put it in my bag. Then I fell asleep and forgot all about it. Someone must have come in and swiped it while I was asleep. You think this Matsunaga's a thief then? It doesn't seem right somehow. Shigeko's letter sounded so cultured. I don't know. I was imagining him as the head of a respectable family. What's this? What about this leaving home every 3 or 4 years though? Bit suspicious, don't you think? I can see how my photographs might appeal to an eccentric like that. What about your postcard? That hat might have some value for a fan of yours, don't you think? After it was stolen, it probably passed from hand to hand until it ended up with him. I don't know about the seal on the ring, though. That is odd. Maybe he spent the money and kept everything else in the bag where he found it. He was probably worried the other things could be traced. That's it. That must be the explanation. Still, it's strange that he should have kept my postcard. He should have burnt it or torn it up or something. I know, Tomoda said with a laugh. The thief must be a fan of yours. Oh, great. You never know. Not all thieves are illiterate. Someone with a bit of education could probably make his way through one of your novels. Marvellous. Is that what I'm supposed to tell Shigeko? That her husband is a thief? How's that going to make her feel? As if she doesn't have problems enough already. Besides, we don't have any proof. Why not just say you don't know anything? It's not as though I'm desperate to get my property back. But I'd have to tell her something about you. Why? Listen to what she says. If you are not acquainted with anybody by the name of Matsunaga Kisuke, perhaps you'd know Mr. Tomoda? If so, perhaps you would be kind enough to tell me what you know about him, and how I might get in touch with him. Absolutely not. Out of the question. I want nothing to do with it. Suddenly Tomoda was shouting. The colour drained from his face again. But I can't tell her I don't know anyone called Tomoda Ginzo. What about the postcard? Alright, so tell her you do know someone called Tomoda Ginzo. You asked him about this Matsunaga person, and he knows nothing about him. And nothing about the articles in the bag either. The postcard may have belonged to him once, but Mr. Tomoda has no recollection of any of the other items. As far as he can remember, he has never lost a seal, and it is a matter of great mystery to Mr. Tomoda how the seal and the postcard came to be in the possession of Mr. Matsunaga. Yours sincerely, etc., etc. That's all you have to do. There's no need to go giving out people's personal details. I'll have to do better than that. She won't be satisfied with such a vague reply. I can see how it might make things a bit awkward for you, but she's obviously managed to persuade herself that you and this Matsunaga are one and the same person. As far as she's concerned, Tomoda Ginzo is just an alias. Look at us. It's not exactly a striking resemblance, is it? I gave the most good-humoured laugh I could manage. But she doesn't know that. She's never set eyes on you. Here, let me see that photograph again. Tomoda held the picture up and looked at it closely. I saw fear flicker in his eyes again. Not as obvious this time, perhaps, but it was the same strange terror I had noticed before. So this is Matsunaga, is it? Look at the old fogey. Way younger than he is. He was 37 when that was taken. Turns 40 this year, she says. 4 years older than me, then. This was the first time he'd ever volunteered such a straightforward piece of information about himself. You're 36? Born in 1885. Year of the rooster. Why, don't I look it? I don't know. I suppose your face does look around 36. Starting to go a bit thin on top, though. It's the booze. Curse of the drinking man, I'm afraid, he said, grabbing a handful of hair at the crown of his head. At the rate I'm going, and I'll be totally bald before you know it. It's starting to get me down, to tell you the truth. Even so, you still look a good 4 or 5 years younger than him. That much I can vouch for. But it's not just our ages. Everything about us is different. I know. You look nothing like him. That's the problem. What do you mean, that's the problem? If I could prove that you were the same person, maybe I'd be able to make some sense of the whole thing. As it is, I'm stumped. I laughed again. But it was no laughing matter, for the more closely I studied the photograph of Matsunaga and his family, and compared it with the man sitting in front of me, the more profoundly I was struck by the total lack of any resemblance between them whatsoever. Here's what we'll do, Tomoda said, leaning across the table. We'll send her a picture. A photograph of me. to prove that her husband and I are two completely unrelated people who don't even look alike. What can she say to that? You're right. It's the easiest way. I'll put 2 or 3 good clear photographs in the post first thing tomorrow morning. You can send them to her and say, here is what Tomoda Ginzo looks like. I am sure that one glimpse of these photographs will dispel any suspicions you may have. In light of this, I don't believe it is necessary to divulge any further information regarding Mr. Tomoda's whereabouts or background. And that will be that. I had no choice but to follow this reasonable suggestion. We sat and continued to talk over still more drinks. From time to time, I caught him stealing a glance at the photograph of the Matsunaga family, which I had deliberately left out on the table. What about it then? Do you still feel like heading over to Yokohama? Tomoda said as he stood up. It was nearly 11. I'd better not. I've got a lot on at the moment. Come on, I'll show you the Portuguese girl. I'd love to, but really, another time, once I've cleared some of this work. You won't forget to send me those pictures, will you? Don't worry, I won't forget. Just don't go telling her anything I wouldn't. Agreed? We left the Pleasant Inn and walked together down the Ginza towards Shibaguchi. We both fell strangely silent as we left the cafe. Tomoda no doubt had things of his own to be thinking about. As for me, I had had far too much to drink that evening, and I was more intoxicated normally than I would allow myself to become. My head spun as I went over our conversation, obsessively trying to make sense of it all. Who was he really? This man I knew as Tomoda Ginzo, stumbling down the street by my side at this very moment. His bag had been stolen, he said. Fair enough, that would explain everything. But what about the look of fear I had seen in his eyes when I showed him the photograph? Why had he felt the need to get so drunk, or at least act though he were? And why was he so particular about keeping his identity and whereabouts a secret, even though he knew he was under suspicion? The more I thought about it, the thicker became the cloud of mystery that enveloped him. Tomoda had said how suspicious it was that Matsunaga kept disappearing without a trace every 3 or 4 years. But if that counted as suspicious behavior, then what about Tomoda himself? If I could prove that you were the same person, maybe I'd be able to make some sense of this whole thing, I had joked. But of course, I hadn't really been joking at all. Even if they weren't the same person, it was still possible that they were somehow in cahoots. Perhaps Tomoda had met Matsunaga overseas. Perhaps they had been meeting in Tokyo at 4-year intervals ever since, working together like shadows to carry out their nefarious schemes. Good night, then, Tomoda said suddenly when we reached the tram stop at Shibaguchi. His tone was unusually brusque. He turned a corner and was gone, vanishing in the direction of Shimbashi Station. Despite his assurances, I had my doubts whether he would really send me the photographs he had promised. But if he had just been looking for a way out of our argument, I thought. But in fact, they were delivered to my door by the afternoon post 2 days later. Identification photographs enclosed as promised, his note read. I had thought that any recent photographs would do, but I couldn't find any suitable, so I had 3 new portraits taken specially. I am enclosing 1 full-length photo, 1 from the waist up, and 1 of the face only. Together, they should be more than sufficient for our purposes. Please send all 3 photographs to Mrs. Matsunaga without too much elaboration. I will thank you not to mention anything about my whereabouts or other personal details. I am not in the habit of giving out my address unless it is absolutely necessary. As I think I made clear the other evening, no purpose would be served by letting Mrs. Matsunaga know where I live. I see no reason why I should be inconvenienced any further for the sake of Mrs. Matsunaga and her disappearing husband. The 3 photographs he had sent clearly served their purpose as identifying shots. Taken together, they would tell you everything you could want to know about his appearance, from his general build and character to the outline of his face and the shape of his skull. Every distinguishing mark was there in full view. But I couldn't help noticing that one thing was missing. Neither in the full body picture nor in the upper body shot was there any sign of the ring he always wore, although you could see his hands quite clearly in both. He must have made a point in taking it off. He had asked me specifically not to mention the ring in my reply to Shigeko. Surely this was the true reason why he had gone to the effort of having new pictures taken. I put the identity photos in an envelope together with my reply. As it happened, I was not able to follow Tomoda's instructions as closely as he would have liked. The sympathy I felt for Shigeko outweighed my feelings of friendship for him. I had my own doubts and suspicions, and although I knew that I might come to regret my actions later on, I decided that I couldn't simply push these thoughts to one side and lie to Shigeko now. My reply was even longer than her original letter to me. In it, I set down everything I knew that might help her get to the bottom of the mystery. I sent her all the evidence at my disposal. The chronological table showing how Tomoda and Matsunaga seemed to go missing in alternating intervals of 4 years, as well as a detailed report of our conversation at the Plaisance Inn. I also wrote, "I don't know what you will make of the photographs I am enclosing, but I hope you will let me know if the man in these pictures resembles your husband in any way, or if they contain any clue that may help you in your search. I will continue to look into things at this end, and will be happy to help in any way I can." A few days later, I received another long letter from Shigeko, full of thanks for my help. But in among all the formalities was a line that took me quite by surprise. For it was clear that the photographs I had sent had not been quite enough to dispel her doubts. "The details you have been kind enough to provide have only deepened my suspicion that Tomoda Ginzo may be an alias used by my husband, Matsunaga Gitsuke." Her second letter was written in the same old-fashioned style as her first. This time I will summarize its contents. "There is no doubt," she wrote, "that the pictures you were kind enough to send show a man quite different in appearance from my husband. But there is something about the eyes and that round face of his that reminds me of my husband. Perhaps my mind is playing tricks on me. My husband has always been thin. If, as you say, Mr. Tomoda has always been rather stout, then my suspicions would seem to be quite unfounded. I cannot offer any solution to the mystery, but in spite of everything I cannot shake the thought that they might somehow be the same person. If my husband were just 4 or 5 years younger, if he lost a few years and gained a few pounds, perhaps this is how he might look. What height is Mr. Tomoda, I wonder? My husband is a little over 5 feet and 4 inches. Do let me know if you learn anything more of Mr. Tomoda's background, where he comes from, what he does for a living, whether he has a family, his true age, and whether there is any truth to the account of how he lost his bag. I realize that I am asking a lot. I hope you will understand my situation. Our daughter's condition shows no sign of improvement, and she longs to see her father. I should be very much obliged if you would make Mr. Tomoda acquainted with the details of the situation." I was stunned. Was her mind playing tricks on her, as she herself had admitted it might be? Or did Tomoda have a way of altering his appearance? Was such a thing even possible? I was more suspicious of him now than ever. Hello, Wonder Bubble. Hello, hello. He's a vampire. I don't know. I don't know if he'd be a vampire. I feel like, so when I was looking for, like what year this book was from, which I think this was written in 1926. I don't think I saw anything mentioned about like supernatural stuff, because I do remember, when I read the Unpleasantness at Bloodley Court, Oh, I think that was the name of it. That specifically was apparently in a science fiction and fantasy compilation back in the 1920s or 30s. Even though I wouldn't really describe that book as being science fiction, but I guess the idea of like a strange curse making people want to hunt, I guess it could be someone's definition of science fiction / fantasy. I don't know. Maybe the perception of science fiction and fantasy was slightly different back in the 1920s, since technology kind of exploded across the 30s and 20s, I guess. World War One had just happened. Yeah, a few years earlier, I think. I can't remember exactly. Pretty sure it was like 100 years ago now. Maybe it was 100 years ago. It's kind of weird to think that the concept of science fiction itself has changed due to the concept of science changing. 1917? Okay, yeah. 105 years ago. But yeah, I know, like, technology did change a lot across, like, World War II and stuff, so... I never had... Yeah. I'm kind of curious. I wonder if any of the other books in the collection of British short stories I have are counted as science fiction. I'd be curious. Because while we have, like, you know, like, big popular books from a long time ago that, like, people know, I feel like there's a decent amount of knowledge to be gleaned from just, like, random stories from the time that aren't as popular. Knowledge. By the way, I definitely don't have enough time to read a whole nother chapter. Let me just see how long. Oh my gosh. How long is... For a short story, it's a pretty long short story. Yeah, that's, Yeah, we've probably got a long way to go. Yeah, this might take a little while, actually, to read. That's fine. That gives us time for me to, get my other books so that we can figure out what to read next. Big story. It's not meant to be a big story. And this book is literally called The Penguin Book of Japanese Short Stories. I've been lied to. I've been led astray. It's fine though. Although, I really kind of wish that I knew that there were quite a lot of mentions of women of the night, because I always feel a bit weird reading out the descriptions whenever they talk about it. It's... Why I get why they're in the story. When I was reading like the synopsis, one of the themes of this story is the difference between the East and kind of the reservedness and politeness and all that kind of stuff of the East, and then like the indulgence and gluttony of the West kind of thing. which is it's definitely an interesting read, keeping in mind that this was actually before World War II, which was obviously you know, before the heavy Americanization of Japan. So it's interesting. Why is my music stopped? Wait, no, stop it. What are you doing? There we go. Jeeves and Wooster short stories one day? What's that? Is that another collection? Jeeves. Nope, that didn't copy and paste properly. Copy. Oh, PG Wodehouse. Oh, that's the guy who did that's the he's the one who did the other book I read, the Unpleasantness at Bloodley House. I didn't realise he'd done more stuff. He's got a whole story of stuff that happens to Jeeves. It's a 20s comedy about a tough and his butler. Jeeves. It's such a typical... That's like the quintessential butler name. Jeeves. Although, maybe... Is it the quintessential butler name because of this series? Is this the reason why it's like, oh yes, Jeeves the butler? Maybe it is. Imagine naming your child G. Huh. I remember when I think of Jeeves, I always think of that used to be the search engine that my granddad used to use when I was a kid. Ask Jeeves. No, none of this Google being everything. No, you had a million little search engines to use. My granddad's choice was Ask Jeeves. I always liked to use the MSN.com search, which wasn't Bing at the time. It was an MSN search. Or something to do with them. Google still had kind of become like the way to say search, though. Like, there already existed websites that you could send to people that would like Google something for them. I think Google actually got very popular as well because of the I'm feeling lucky function. Like, I remember learning so many stories from people like, oh, if you type into Google how many wars has France won, and then hit I'm feeling lucky, you'll be sent to a page where it says they haven't won any, ha 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 ha, and like little tricks like that. I don't know why that's the one that sticks in my memory specifically, but it is. Alright, since I can't read another chapter because of timing stuff, we're gonna leave it there for the night. Yeah. I'm glad I actually got to do my daytime stream though today. But unfortunately I can't. It always feels really weird ending a stream on YouTube because I can't raid, I can't... I'm limited. My powers are contained. That's good. Yeah, thank you for coming. It's fun to do a request stream. It always is interesting to see what ends up being like. There always tends to be a theme normally, and this time it ended up being like quite Animal Crossing aligned. But that's cute. So, but yes, so if you are sleeping, I hope you're sleeping well. Have good dreams. If you're still working or doing homework or anything like that, I do hope that the rest of your work goes well and you get everything done very soon so you can relax, especially since it is, for you Americans, it's Thanksgiving. If you are celebrating Thanksgiving today, then I do hope that's going well. I do hope you're having a good time and enjoying your food. But if it's not such a good day, then please take care of yourselves. And take care of yourselves in general, everyone, as well. I will be back on Sunday on Twitch. So yeah. I'm making HelloFresh potato wedges. The potatoes they send are actually really nice. 10 out of 10. You're going to enjoy those. Thank you again for going with the sponsor. I do appreciate it. But yeah, I'm gonna head to bed because it is nearly 3 a.m. and I have taken my medication, so I am starting to get sleepy, but maybe not as sleepy as I should be. And yeah, if you need to go watch someone else on YouTube, I think 7192 is still streaming. But yeah, take care, get something to eat, get something to drink, get some rest. I need to pause the other music. There we go. And yeah, see you on Sunday. And if I don't see you on Sunday, have a very good rest of your week. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Bye. Yeah, you too. You too. Thank you.